Hey Rob, how you doing today?
Awesome, Chris. Love that intro, man. Powerful.
Epic. Thank you very much. It's an honor and a privilege to have you on the show today, folks. I've been trying to get Rob on this show for a long time. This has been, this has been a labor of love, a desire to get him on this show, and we finally were able to make it happen.
Finally.
Yeah. So, and Rob is coming to us, and I keep forgetting this with other guests. So I'm going to start officially with Rob. Rob's coming to us live from sunny Pasadena, California, which is epic. I hear they have a lot of roses out there, as we were saying before.
They do. They do. It's a beautiful place.
Epic, epic. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We always start our shows off with the hero's journey, and our audience has gotten used to this. We talk about the beginning, the turning point, and the aftermath of all of our experts. It gives our audience a chance to get to know them better, and gives us a chance to really dig deep into their backstory and understand why they are our guest expert is somebody our audience should look to for help. So, Rob, give us a quick summary. I don't know, maybe 60 to 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. A quick summary of your hero's journey. Where you've been, what the turning point was, and then where you're at now.
Success, massive failure, book, success. That's. Oh, you didn't say 6 seconds. You said 60 to 90 seconds.
And that was the true hero's journey.
Yeah, I got started in real estate when I was 18 years old. My dad owned a real estate company, and I'm 50 now, to give you an idea of how long I was in real estate. And short version, in the early 2000s, I had three companies all centered in the real estate industry. And they were doing great. We were doing $100 million a year in closings, several $1,000,000 a year in personal income. I owned millions of dollars in real estate. And everyone knows what was coming, right? We had that massive, massive crash, and closed my company down, laid off dozens of employees. I mean, it was painful. Happy to share more of my pain if you like. My whole turnaround was I wrote a book. And in a whole new industry, became successful, very successful, and kind of positioned me as a thought leader in that industry at the time, and kind of became what I have now, which, man, no one wants to go through hard times, right, Chris? But it was a blessing. Looking back, it was a real blessing.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so great you take that attitude. A lot of people go through hard times. We've had a lot of guests on the show who've gone through some major tragedies and some major low points. And the common theme that runs through successful people is, even if you get into it for the moment, even if you do let it get you down, even if your only joy during a day is taking one foot off the bed, putting it on the floor, and then crawling back under the covers, even if you get that low, the hallmark of a successful person is eventually you get through it. You find a way to get through. You may get some help, what have you, but you find a way to get through it. Right, Rob?
Well, I think that's true. I mean, at the time, it was incredibly painful. I mean, I've been married 26 years. At that time, I am in my mid-40s, right, and married for 20 plus years. I got three kids in private school. I got an 8,000 square foot house I live in. It was a complete disaster. And so what am I going to do now with the rest of my life, kind of thing? Because, when you've been in something for that long, real estate for me, and it collapses like that, it's, you just don't have the heart to do it over again. I did not, anyway. Probably the most coarse, terrible example I can give you is, if when you were younger, hopefully not anytime recent, you go on a drinking binge in college, and you get really wasted, and you're throwing up, and you don't want to have anything to do with alcohol. You don't want to have anything to do with Jack Daniels, as an example, in my own personal life ever again. And that's how I felt about real estate. I was like, oh my gosh, it was painful. Really painful.
Yeah, I can imagine. Let's talk more about the beginning. Since you were ultra successful, it really sounds like you were ultra successful. Tell us a smidge about how you built that success the first time around.
Yeah, I guess good question. Thanks for I guess everybody measures success in different ways. So ultra successful, I'd say, probably means I would have been able to continue it, but it was the worst economy in my lifetime, and what happened hopefully will never be repeated. But first and foremost, I think it was hard work. I mean, I did get started early in it, and I got a good background, my dad having been in real estate. But I think some of the gifts that I personally have, and just the desire and willingness to work really, really hard, just elbow grease, was a lot of it. And that also was a bit of the handcuff too, because I wasn't near as savvy a marketer then as I am now. I built it kind of with telephone and just grit. And when you get a little bit older, you want to change the positioning from me chasing people on the phone to, if I could reposition it to having people chase me, which was what I was able to do. That really. So I worked hard chasing people, but in reality, I think what I'm doing now is so much greater, so much more fun.
Yeah, definitely. And the interesting part, and we'll talk about it in the aftermath a little bit, was how you had a successful formula, but realized it wasn't. You could be even more successful than but by doing it a different way.
Yeah.
So you came from the school of hard knocks, the school of grit, the school of just going out and working really hard to make it happen. Do you think that in your first success, the beginning? Do you think that's a key success, a key trait for anybody to be successful?
Oh yeah, totally it is. Because you don't know what you don't know in the beginning, right? And so certainly education plays a big role in it. I don't mean a college education, though I have one. The best thing about my college education is that I completed it and I paid for it myself while I worked selling real estate. So that was a source of success and pride. But the real education came, investing in myself later. But yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it's energy. It's when you're young, it's energy and grit and determination and figuring it out that I think lays the groundwork for hopefully being able to turn it all around so that you can figure out how to attract people to you rather than continuing to chase them down. But chasing them down works too. It's just harder.
Yeah, it's just a whole lot harder to be. It's a whole lot. It's kind of funny. It's like in the animal kingdom. It's a whole. How can I put this succinctly? It's a whole lot harder to go out hunting than it is to be the hunted. The nice part in our world, when we're hunted by people, we're not about to get killed like they do out in the animal kingdom. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
It's a good thing, right?
So it sounds like during that beginning phase, one of the things you did very successfully was complete a college education and do it and pay for it on your own, and you built a successful real estate. Should we call it an empire? I think even if it wasn't, I think we can call it an empire. See, folks, we have the
empire.
Now, I was just about to make the joke that's liken you to the guys like Armando Montalongo and the house flipping guys. When you did the real estate, was it buying and selling? Was it renovating? How did you what type of real estate and how did you build? What type of real estate was it, and what did you do with it?
Yeah, good question. I guess there are a lot of different. When I think real estate, I think kind of traditional. I owned a real estate brokerage, so I owned a mortgage company as well, and I was also a title insurance agent. So in Florida, it's different in every state, but in Florida, we had 3 companies that did all of those things. So we sold the house, we financed it, and then we did the actual closing on it. And like I said, we did $100 million a year in closings. We did a lot of closings, and but the market totally evaporated at one point. I know we'll get into that, but it was certainly very, very successful from the standpoint that we were serving a really fun market, kind of second time, third time buyers, luxury type buyers, and people that generally had money and were looking to upgrade their circumstances and their homes. And so it was fun to do. It was also a little like handcuffs, which I'm happy to explain to you as well. But it was fun.
Sure. When you, yeah, and I think it's great when I think it's great to talk about, how success, how hard work, desire, and also how a high-end market can be a blessing. But it sounds like what you were alluding to is that all of those things can be a blessing, but they can also handcuff you. And a lot of times people think, let's face it, we've got, people like Dan Kennedy and GKIC and those guys saying always go high dollar and saying you can always sell high dollar to anybody, and people take it as a panacea to fix everything. So why don't you tell folks a little bit about, why don't you go into the handcuffs a little bit? I think that'd be great.
Yeah. And I'd say, the market froze in 2007, 2008 as far as lending to anybody but your FHA, kind of your first-time home buyers, that kind of thing, which is not what we worked in. I didn't necessarily mean that's where the handcuffs were for me.
Okay.
I guess what I meant was I was making a lot of money, and yet I wasn't really fulfilled in what I was doing. You know how when you're younger, you get on a track, and you kind of you go down the track, sometimes that's been laid out in front of you, and you start making money and getting successful, and one thing builds upon another. And so for me, here I was, and this is almost embarrassing, because some people will be like, yeah, you're so, what a jerk. You made millions of dollars and you felt handcuffed. Right, I'd like to try that. But, I was in a business that, while I enjoyed some parts of it, I really didn't enjoy the real estate end of it anymore. It was like, it wasn't that fulfilling. It was just like I was making widgets, which had no, like, deeper meaning for me, like it was working on some core within me. And yet the handcuffs were, how do you stop doing it? Because you're making so much money doing it. It's what you've always done. God had to come along and go, you're going to stop doing it. Like crushing. Yeah. So that's the only way I would have stopped, is it all, the music stopped and I didn't have a seat left, so I had to go do something else.
Been there, yeah, and that's a great segue into the turning point, because really, whether it was the market crash, whether it was the real estate crash, whether it was 2008, how many more bad memories can I bring up for folks watching this? Everybody, we don't, I don't, I'm not a prude, I just don't really drink. I mean, it's just kind of personal choice, but I'm telling you, everybody on the show right now is going to grab a fifth of Jack because they're remembering 2008, or they're twitching. But so the interesting part is bring up the fact that God kind of smacked you over the head, and it goes back to, before we get into your turning point, it goes back to a story I tell, a very quick one, about the feather and the 2x4. God will tickle you with a feather, or the universe, or whatever higher power you believe in will tickle you with a feather if they don't think you're moving in the right direction. If you don't laugh and change direction, eventually they're going to get tired of it, and they're going to take a big 2x4 and smack you upside the head. And they will continue to do it until you figure out that you're in the wrong direction. Now, hey, God's a loving God. The universe is great and everything. They don't really want to hurt you, but sometimes you just got to go, get with the program. So you're kind of smacking the head. Was it completely the real estate crash, or were there other things going on? I mean, you said it almost like there was cracks forming because you had realized you weren't fulfilled and everything. Did that realization come before or after the crash?
Well, it came before, but I didn't have a plan or know what to do about it. So I knew it, while I was successful and making a lot of money. I was a little like, but when you're successful and you're making a lot of money, you figure, well, it's that's cool. I can sell this business, or I can. You figure that there's another way out of it. At the moment, I wasn't taking any steps in that direction, but you figure, well, you make enough money, you can invest in another business and try something new, right? Having money gives you options. But it just didn't happen that way for me. It happened in a very different way for me.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up money gives you options, and I think that it sounds like one of the things our viewers can take away from that is the fact that even if they're ultra successful right now, and even if they think money gives them options, if they have that yearning, that something else inside them, they ought to start putting a plan in place to make it happen. I mean,
Yeah.
looking back on it, do you? And I hate to say wish because wish is such a blocking thing, and it's like next time. Would you say that next time you would do it a little bit differently and listen to that voice inside of you?
Well, I did. I did, and that's part of the turnaround story. Because when things turned around, I actually, because financially, I mean, I went from making a lot of money to closing my business.
Yeah.
I had to kind of get back on track and chase the money for a while in this new field, new for me. But then I found myself very, very quickly right back to this is not fulfilling. This is just a very similar thing. And I was able to say, okay, how do we transition out of that to something that I really love? And so yeah, would I do it differently? I did. So yeah, I would if I had an opportunity. It would have been cool. Would have loved the opportunity because then maybe I would have been able to get started faster. It wouldn't have been as painful. But yeah, I would do it differently.
Yeah, I was right there with you. I watched a guy when I was working in corporate America. I watched a guy who, right before it crashed in 2008, decided to move everything out. My famous comment to him was, "Ah, don't worry, the market's going to come back." Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I'm still paying for that. I'm still
I
paying for
bet.
that
I
comment.
bet.
But from your standpoint, it sounds like you went through during your turning point period. It sounds like you went through a couple of humps and almost like a little, an up and down type of time. It sounds like the market crash, you had issue, you lost you shut the business down, you got started into something else, and then I'm not saying you came back down, but it's kind of like you got out of it very quickly. I mean, am I hearing that right?
Yeah, not very quickly. I mean, a few years,
Okay.
but because we're going all the way back to 2007, 8. So, I mean, when I think of down, I think of closing my business, and not much compares with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, the turning point wasn't so much down. It was this was my trajectory, and then I kind of hit a plateau, and then I took it to the next kind of level in what I'm doing now. That's probably the way I would classify it, especially looking back at '07 and '08.
Yeah, nothing compares to when you have that true. It's funny because when you have that really downtime, nothing compares. Nothing, even a slight down, doesn't ever compare to it again, right?
Right. Totally. Totally.
And you were saying something before about, people joke around about, oh, geez, I'd like to have that problem about, having a lot of money and
Right.
not be satisfied. Um, I, how can I put this? What I, share with our audience. I think it'd be really valuable because I think every time somebody's ultra successful and they have that really downtime, share with our audience, whether it's during the turning point or before, how that really changed your perspective on success and on money and on everything else.
Yeah, how it changed my perspective. The only hesitation is I'm not sure that it changed my perspective, but but certainly it did wake me up um, to the immediate importance of, for me as an individual, um, there are there are things that I just can't be personally satisfied with, like internally. Like internally, things have to be right, and the money doesn't fix that, and the stuff doesn't fix that. There has to be stuff internally right. I've always known that, but as you start making more and more money, the things maybe that you wake up to are, you don't want to just. I don't want to just think of my life as, well, 8 hours a day I do this. This is my job, my job, and then I can go on and really live my purpose or make the kind of impact that I want to make. I've always wanted those things to be the same, no matter how much money I made. But of course, you don't know that until you're making a lot of money. So the change in perspective for me was when I did make a lot of money, I was like, oh wow, So I'm still not really fired up with what I'm doing.
And I think that's what a lot of people misunderstand. I remember the quick story is I remember when I first got into corporate America, my goal was to be the CEO of a company. And when I left corporate America and I formed, one of my incorporated companies, I was elected CEO, and literally I hung up the phone and I went, "This is all it is." And you have this perspective, whether it's money, whether it's power, you have this perspective of what it's going to mean and how it's going to change your life. And only after you achieve it and realize, yeah, it's not everything everything the world says or everything it was cracked up to be, only then do you realize, why you need to stay true to your core. And I think that's kind of what you're saying. And that's why people should listen to people who, like you, who had money before, who lost it all, and really now, realize that they have to fill that bucket, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you got to the turning point, and now we're going to stretch into the aftermath. And as it turned, you went from losing it all to starting something that really wasn't, that you said didn't completely fill your bucket. And now you're on now you plateaued, and then you are now on to your ultimate success. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about that time, and maybe I'll say, let's talk about the plateau and from that point on, if we can.
Yeah. Well, there I was in 2008, and I knew I didn't have the heart to, rebuild a real estate company. Even though I knew how to do it, I probably could have transitioned to, selling what was selling, which were foreclosures, short sales, FHA, first-time home buyers. I mean, the market was still moving, but I just, how you just don't have the heart to do it. So, I decided that I needed to reposition myself in a new industry. I picked financial services because it was close, and I had some experience in that, although no one knew me in that kind of field of endeavor, even though I had some expertise there. And you mentioned GKIC. I was part of a mastermind with GKIC and some other marketers, and it was recommended that I write a book to position myself as an authority in this industry that I was unknown. And I wrote, my first book, Life After Debt, and it did well, became a bestseller, and got me positioned on radio, speaking engagements, things like that. And the radio is really where things took off. I ended up doing, initially I was like the local financial expert guy, and so I was doing like a 2-minute spot once a week, but that was successful. And within about 8 months to a year, that grew to 4 hours a week of live radio that I was doing. And that generated hundreds of leads. And so that I rebuilt this company, or started a brand new company and built it from nothing to the point of doing over $1 million in like 13 months. So there, I went from this failure to writing the book and doing $1 million and building another business. And I was like, very quickly, I was like, financial services is just like real estate. It's not what I feel like I was supposed to be doing, but I needed the money, right? I mean, I had a family to support. I needed to take care of my family and do what was necessary. But very, very quickly, the plateau hit, because I was like, I'm getting handcuffed again to, I'm chasing the money, I'm making the money, and I'm thankful. Believe me, I'm thankful. But I'm like, wow, this is not really going in the direction that the inner fulfillment that I wanted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So, because a lot of our viewers might feel that way and not even know it. In other words, they might just feel something is off, but they can't put their finger on it.
Yeah.
Was it like that for you, or either the first time or the second time, or did you really know? Like, was it kind of that inner feeling where you knew that you weren't living to your purpose, and you knew exactly what was off? So was it that you knew exactly what was off, or that you just had this weird feeling and you started searching for it?
I'd say I knew, but it's a little like, the hierarchy of needs type deal, right? So, initially my needs were, it took me some time to go from the closing of my business to the success of the next one, because I made all these mistakes in writing my book and launching it, and it took me 18 months to write a book that's less than 100 pages. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes, wasted money and all kinds of things. And so, my hierarchy of needs, if you will, was I needed to kind of lick my wounds and get successful again. But when that happened, very quickly I was like, wow, I'm going down the same path. And fortunately, I was able to take the route out that I wish I could have taken out the first time, which was building a successful business, selling it, and moving in another direction.
Epic. So one of the things you did was you learned from your previous mistakes, you learned from all the negatives, and applied them the next time you had the opportunity. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you look back, and even on that time, wow, I wish I would have done this a little different, this a little different, but relative to 2007, 2008, it was awesome.
Yeah. and the next time it'll be even better.
It'll be better. That's right.
And one of the reasons I bring it up is because people who are maybe in the beginning phases right now, or maybe getting towards that low point, one of the things you need to do if you're watching this and you're getting towards that point, remember, listen to Rob's story and understand the fact that you will take some of the things that are really painful now and you're learning now, and you're going to apply them in the future and become even more successful. So it's interesting because your topic today, which we're going to get to in a little bit, is about publish and promote and profit from your very own best-selling book. So it sounds like, once you wrote the book and once you built that financial services, it sounds like you then took it to another level and realized that you could help other people do the same thing with the knowledge that's inside of them. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, I mean, that's, that I stumbled into, as a gift from God, because I really find something that gives me a lot of deeper fulfillment. And people ask me, I mean, remember it was 2009, 2010, so it's not like things were humming. I mean, our business was exploding for me, but a lot of people were really struggling, and they were like, how are you doing this? What are you doing? And can you help me to do it? And I shared with them, what I was doing, and could I help them? I tried to help them, and, did what I could to help them and give them advice. And, of course, that morphed into, over the next few years, our program, which, I found just tremendous fulfillment in, as relative to, there's nothing wrong with financial services and real estate, and people are very fulfilled in that. I just was not. And what I do now is kind of, in some ways, what I'm built to do.
Yeah, and that's epic. And so one last question as we kind of wrap up the aftermath piece before we take a very short break and then get into your expert focus segment. You were in housing, which some people would say would be helping people. In other words, you're helping people get a roof over their head. You were in financial services, and some people would say that that's helping people because you're helping people build maybe a financial legacy. But now you're in the business of teaching people how to publish, profit, and promote. Publish, promote, and profit. You got to get it in the right order from their own best-selling book, which to me sounds like it's not only helping them, but it can help exponentially more people. It sounds like it can help exponentially more people. So would you say this is a more fulfilling and not necessarily better? Don't take the judgmental tone of better, but or my judgmental tone of better. But do you feel this is more fulfilling because you can help more people in this capacity?
Yeah, I mean, it is better for me, me internally. Like I tried to say before, I don't think there's anything wrong with real estate or financial services. I have a realtor and I have a financial services person. I need them. But I just don't want to be that guy. I think there are a number of reasons I love what I do outside of, the success that I have financially. And one of them, yes, is that, I am able to exponentially impact people by helping somebody get their message out. So I'm not just helping that individual, but I'm helping the thousands of other people that are reading their material, that are connecting with them, and that are having their lives changed in one way or another. And that to me is just really cool. I just think it's just fun, really, really fun.
Yeah, it is definitely a blast. So for all of our
Yeah.
viewers, we're going to take a very, very quick break. Today on the show, we're talking to Rob Kosberg. He's just told you about his hero's journey, and as he put it very succinctly, success, major failure, success. If you just tuning in, or if you happen to catch this, or catch this on the replay, go back, watch Rob's hero's journey, and you'll understand how somebody who is in real estate and went through that severe crash of 2008, has come back strong and is now helping thousands upon thousands, and by extension, millions of people by showing authors how to profit, see, I get it out. Give me the profit first, man. Don't make me publish and actually write something. Just let me profit, baby. Showing you how to publish, promote, and profit. I didn't care about promotion, just profit, baby. Just get me to the profit. That's what our viewers are saying. Get me to the profit. But no, he's built an incredible business showing authors how to publish, promote, and profit from their best-selling book. And that's what we're going to be talking about in our Experts Focus segment. So if you're going to go grab a drink of water, going to go grab a cup of coffee, an energy drink, whatever your choice is, just come on back in like 30 to 60 seconds, and we'll see you on the flip side.
To watch the rest of this epic episode now, click on the link below the video. Do it now, you'll be glad you did. Are you still here? What are you waiting for? Watch the rest of this epic episode now by clicking on the link below the video.